Volume 2, Chapter 12 of The Female American, or The Adventures of Unca Eliza Winkfield. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 12. After Captain Shore had obtained a pardon for himself and crew, he returns in search of Mrs. Winkfield. Fate of the captain who left her on the uninhabited island. They resolve to settle their affairs in England and live with the Indians. Conclusion. My father and I heard this wonderful relation with great attention and surprise, but still mourned for you, my dear Unca, being ignorant of your fate. However, we proceeded to bring the captain to justice. The case was laid before the king and council, together with Captain Shore's petition, on behalf of himself and people. I got the conditional pardon granted, having 3 years allowed to bring home the ship and crew with a proper passport. As soon as Captain Shore received notice of this, he came home to England in order to hire a ship to carry him back to his people. Whilst he was making the proper preparations for his voyage, we were much together. I asked him, as he was well acquainted with those parts where my cousin had been left upon some island or other thereabouts, whether he thought it improbable to discover the island. He answered, I know these parts extremely well, and I doubt not that if the captain will give me the best account of the situation of the island that he can, but that I should be able to find it out. This gave me great pleasure. Well then, said I, if my father and mother will give their consent, I will go along with you in quest of her. It is not impossible, added I, but she may be yet living. I have read of as surprising deliverances. At the worst we may find her bones, and pay the last honors to her dear unhappy memory. And here, my dear Unca, I wept indeed. My father and mother consented with pleasure, and as soon as everything was settled and ready, we sailed. We had a speedy and prosperous voyage to the captain's island, where he and the pardon he brought were highly welcome. I saw there the wicked captain who robbed you. He gave Captain Shore a very clear account of the situation of your island. We stayed here no longer than till your ship and the captain's were ready to sail for England with your treasure, and the prisoners all under his mate's command. We promised to follow them soon to our native country. We then set sail for your island, and happily discovered it. But what was a much happier discovery, found you alive and well. Thus, my husband ended his extraordinary relation, full of a wonderful series of providences. At length, the time arrived to expect the return of Captain Shore, and now my husband went twice every week over to the island for 3 months, but no appearance of any ship. But at last, as he approached the shore one morning, he saw a streamer playing in the air. He knew the signal and rejoiced. But walking to the place where he first landed out of the ship that brought him, he saw no cannon, nor any body upon the island. He continued, walking along the shore, yet saw no ship. At last he spied a cannon. Having always a tinder-box ready about him for the expected occasion, he struck a light and fired the cannon. It was not long before he saw a boat making for the shore, and soon discovered that Captain Shore was one of the company. They were very glad to see each other. It seems Captain Shore had arrived but the day before, when he set up the flag, and having waited all day, left the cannon ready charged before he returned on board. My husband went on board the captain's ship and dined with him, when they agreed that Captain Shore should come with my husband to our island and spend 3 days with us. We were both very glad to hear that our father and mother were all well, and our sisters. We desired Captain Shore to relate the particulars that had happened from the time he left the island, which he did as follows. I shall pass over the unimportant accidents that occurred during our voyage. Upon our arrival in England, I found all your family well. They were amazingly surprised to hear of Mrs. Winkfield's being alive, and the thought of your being together made them easy as to their not seeing their son again with me, as they expected. But when I told them of the strange things that I had seen and heard on the island, they were confounded. I know not, said your father, what to make of these things. They exceed human comprehension. Surely your fears and surprise made you to imagine things to exist that really did not. May be so, returned I, willing to drop the subject, that I myself did not understand, and which, if insisted on, might have given great uneasiness. I should have returned much sooner here, continued Captain Shore, but as my ship and Mrs. Winkfield's were both arrived a week before me, I was obliged to stay till the cargoes were landed, and what belonged to Mrs. Winkfield committed to your father's care. Besides, I was obliged to attend the trial of the captain and the crew, who were found guilty upon their own confession. The captain and 3 of his men were hanged at Execution Dock, and afterwards hung in chains. The rest of the crew were transported for life. As soon as this was over, I and my men took out our pardons in due form. They afterwards went where they pleased. Several persons who I had robbed at sea brought in their claims, all which I fully answered. These things settled, I set out in Mrs. Winkfield's ship, and arrived safe at your first island. In return to Captain Shore's relation, we acquainted him with everything that we had done in his absence, and satisfied his curiosity about the wonderful things that he had met with upon the island. When we finished our account, the captain expressed great surprise and satisfaction at what had happened, and added, "Since what has befallen me, I shall not like to reside in England, nor any more to be concerned in worldly affairs. Therefore, if you think me a true convert, let me join in your society." We replied that we had no doubt of his sincerity, and should be very glad of his company. We now agreed Captain Shore and my husband should return together to England, that my husband might take a final leave of his relations, receive his parents' blessing, and settle half of his and my fortune upon his sisters, and leave the rest for charitable uses, and bring over such books and things as might be useful to us in our retirement. But we first determined to go upon my island, to collect all the gold treasure there, to blow up the subterraneous passage and the statue, that the Indians might never be tempted to their former idolatry. When all this was done, and the golden treasure put on board, the captain and my husband set out upon their voyage. They arrived safe in England, saw our father and mother, who consented to their son's request, and gave him their blessing. As soon as my husband had sold his golden treasure and settled his affairs, and bought a large library of books and many kinds of goods and linens, he and Captain Shore once more returned to me. We ordered the sailors to unload their cargo upon my first island, and to leave us a large boat for the more convenient conveying of our goods to the other island where we lived. We did not suffer the sailors to come any farther upon the island than just to land the goods, that made no discovery of our habitation might be made. As we never intended to have any more to do with Europe, Captain Shore and my husband ordered a person who came for that purpose to return to Europe with the ship, by whom, for my father and mother's satisfaction, I sent over these adventures. Finis. End of Volume 2. End of The Female American, or The Adventures of Unca Eliza Winkfield, by Unca Eliza Winkfield, Anonymous.